fiance secretly invited my estranged twin who once attacked me, to our wedding. It was the last straw in our relationship. 28 and I got engaged to my girlfriend of 3 years, a 26F, a few months back. We were supposed to get married 2 days ago. My girlfriend had always seemed like a normal and pretty laid-back person before we got engaged, but as soon as she got the ring on her finger, she became this controlling and stubborn person who wouldn't listen to anything I said. She planned the entire wedding and didn't take any of my opinions into consideration. She did whatever she pleased. She invited whoever she wanted to, including old friends of mine whom I hadn't spoken to in ages. I told her several times not to invite them since it would just be awkward for everyone involved, but she was convinced that everyone who'd ever known me needed to be invited. Eventually, I gave up trying and let her do whatever she wanted, hoping that this new side of hers would go back into hiding once we got married. She'd always had control issues, even before I met her. That's what my friend told me when he introduced us. But I hadn't imagined it could be this bad. She needed to be the one running the show at all times, and everything she said had to happen, or else she'd lose her mind. I dealt with it for the few weeks leading up to the wedding without a word because I did love her. But then she did something absolutely unforgivable. While we were making a list of people to invite a few months ago, my fiancé had asked me about my sister. I was a little shocked because I had told her very clearly, a few months into our relationship, that I'd gone no contact with my sister 10 years ago and hadn't heard from her since, and that's how I wanted it to stay. She met my family 6 months into the relationship, and when she saw multiple family photos on the walls, of course, she asked me who the identical girl standing beside me was in all my childhood photos. I told her about my estranged sister, my twin sister, also 28. My sister and I went no contact 10 years ago over an incident that changed my life for the worse. Growing up, my sister and I weren't friends. The photos of us as kids might mislead people into thinking we were close since we looked like two happy kids constantly hugging and smiling. But that was only for our parents' sake. Behind the scenes, we were constantly at odds over every little thing. It wasn't the usual sibling rivalry. We didn't love each other deep down. We straight up hated each other and tried our very best to one-up each other all the time. This didn't stop until high school, when I ended up scoring better than her on my SATs. She was furious and refused to even look at me for days after, which was fine by me. I thought I'd beaten her once and for all. Little did I know the worst was yet to come. A few weeks later, it was time to see what colleges we'd been accepted into. Both my sister and I were straight A students, so we expected to get accepted into all the colleges we applied to. My first choice was Yale, and hers was Princeton. I hadn't considered applying to Princeton simply because I didn't want to end up at the same place as her. But my friends convinced me to apply at the last minute, saying I couldn't base decisions about my future on something as petty as whether my sister would be going to the same place. They were right, it was about time we let go of this rivalry. So, I applied to Princeton, but I kept quiet about it because I'd made such a big deal out of not applying and even rubbed it in her face at dinner. I also found out that my sister hadn't applied to Yale for similar reasons, probably to get back at me. Anyway, I ended up getting accepted to both, while my sister was accepted to Columbia but didn't get into Princeton. It was a huge blow for her since she'd talked about nothing else but going to Princeton ever since senior year started. I knew things would only get worse once she found out I'd been accepted to Princeton, and I was right. I planned on keeping my acceptance to Princeton a secret because I wasn't going to go, and my sister didn't need to know. I didn't want any extra drama before I left for college. But I guess my parents found out somehow. They probably went through our mail. Anyway, my mom decided to throw us both a surprise party that very afternoon, with the names of all the colleges written in frosting on our cakes. I didn't know about it. If I had, maybe I could have prevented what happened. As soon as my sister saw Princeton on my cake, she scoffed and said I hadn't even applied. But I think she could tell from my face what the truth was. She started screaming in my face about how I'd ruined her life and stolen her future. I tried to explain that I had no idea she wouldn't get accepted and didn't mean to hurt her, but of course, given our history, that was hard to believe. I did feel bad about it, though. Update. After a while, she ran out of steam and stormed out of the house in tears. I sat in the living room while my parents told me how tired they were of our constant fighting and that both of us had some serious growing up to do. I couldn't blame them. They'd tried their very best to mend things between us, but we just seemed to have come out of the womb hating each other, so they'd given up and just let us do our own thing once we were in high school. I decided to take my parents' advice and try to be civil to her. So, minutes after she left, I went out to talk to her. Most of our guests had left after her outburst, and it was pretty dark outside. I couldn't see her out there and tried calling her name, but before I knew what was happening, I felt something really hard hit the back of my head, and I collapsed to the ground. The last thing I remember was being in excruciating pain and screaming for help before passing out. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital room with my wrist in a bandage. Once I woke up, my parents informed me that my psycho sister had been waiting outside for me.